Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is July 17th. Hello, Tom.
Hello, good morning.
Well, good morning. Uh, Welcome, Tom. Tom is my dear friend, and he actually worked in FBI for almost 30 years and worked as assistant director of FBI for almost 5 years, and he's retired now. And thank you so much, Tom, to coming to our program like every week to
My pleasure.
yeah, to explain what happened
Yeah,
here.
thank you for having me.
Sure, of course. My pleasure. And then today, of course, we're talking about the biggest issue right now is assassination of Mr. Trump. I was still, to be honest, in the shock of the whole thing. And this is huge. This is huge. After a few days, people realize, more and more people realize that this is something that maybe very weird that happened. By that, I mean, is that really only one 20-year-old person can do? This is the biggest question right now. And there are so many of the questions. And by the time people have more and more and more question about what's really going on that day and what's really going on behind. So because Tom, you are the specialty of the security issue. So I just really like to hear from you. What's going on? What do you think from your professional point of view?
Okay, from my experience during my nearly 30 years in the Bureau,
Mhm,
during that time, among other duties and investigating organized crime
mhm,
and other crimes that the FBI is responsible to look at, I was also on as a brand new agent. I was on the Chicago FBI SWAT team, and I had been a police officer for 6 years and a firearms instructor as a police officer. So,
mhm,
so I was selected to be on the SWAT team pretty early in
mhm,
my career in Chicago. Then
mhm,
later, as I moved up the line to be an executive, when I was an assistant in charge of the FBI in San Francisco, I was in charge of the SWAT program in
mhm,
San Francisco, among other things, organized crime, white collar crime,
mhm,
other things.
mhm,
I was also on the command staff as an on-scene commander at the Olympics in Atlanta in 1996.
mhm,
And there were several of us designated for that were to be in charge on a rotating basis during the Olympic Games
mhm.
in the summer of 1996. Now
You
later,
had a bit experience on that area.
right now later, as a SWAT boss, let's say, in the San Francisco division. Then later, I was the special agent in charge of the Indianapolis division, which meant the entire state of Indiana for 2 years. And then I was the FBI's first on-scene commander in Iraq in summer of 2003. So during that time, obviously selected for those positions because of my tactical background,
Mhm,
understanding how these events occur, how you address it, how you try to deal with them. Now, in this particular case, let me rewind the timeline a little bit here. Let's say, when the Secret Service first finds out that Trump is going to have a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. So what they would do is assign somebody from the Secret Service to go to Butler and then try to organize all the departments that are going to be assigned to deal with that rally. That's going to be other federal agencies, state police, county police, multiple counties, multiple cities, multiple townships. So what we would refer to those type of events as a cast of thousands. Um, so what happens is that you're going to have some preliminary meetings a day or two or a week prior to the rally to organize who's going to do what, who's going to be where. Now, technically, the Secret Service is in charge of protecting President Trump first as an ex-president. He's entitled to protection the rest of his life, but then as a candidate, he's also uh, at a certain level entitled to protection. And there's been some dispute about whether the Biden administration was trying to hold back protection for him or protection for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Some evidence that the Biden administration was not cooperative. But in any event, they did have Secret Service at Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, what happens is someone, and I've been that someone, is designated to be the on-scene commander, meaning not in Washington, not in Pennsylvania, some other place, but right at the scene. And what'll happen is there's going to be created a tactical operations center. That's where the bosses and the on-scene commander are going to be located during the event in order to run it. So now you have these meetings, let's say 2 days, 3 days before the rally, and you're trying to identify who are the law enforcement officers that are going to be part of the assignment to this event. All of the local police, all of the federal police, state, county, township, as I mentioned. So now the actual people who will be the bosses at the event are working. So they're not all going to be at these early meetings. They'll send their representatives and they'll say, for example, okay, I'm the sheriff of Timbuktu County, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to have 5 of my deputies assigned. And then the next sheriff, I'm going to have so many of my people assigned. And then go right down all of the agencies. There might be 25 different agencies. This is a tremendous problem for the commanders, for everybody. Who's who? Who's good guy? Who's the bad guy? Now, one of the things you notice, you see this on TV and in the movies, that when there's going to be a multi-agency raid on any, whether it's a search warrant, whether it's arresting drug push, whatever it is, that you'll see the FBI agents that are assigned to be at that raid on the street are going to be wearing their blue windbreaker jackets with orange FBI letters on the back. Now, I can remember shortly after 9/11, during the Bush administration, when Homeland Security was created. They were creating their number one investigative agency, Homeland Security Investigations. And they started out on the back of their jackets, HSI. And HSI and FBI and DEA, everybody would show up with their jackets. And the people, even the good guys, even the other officers at the scene would say, who are these HSI guys? What does that mean? Are they health inspectors? What are they? And so what happened is then these agencies quickly got rid of those jackets and got jackets that just said police on the back of it. So you had FBI, everybody knows FBI. Then you had some DEA. Then you had some ATF and other agencies. But eventually, the more obscure, lesser known agencies would put police on the back. Now, what that tells you is that one of the most compelling issues at a major event with a cast of 1,000 good guys, for one, is going to be who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. Now, that's not easy, especially from across the street or down the block or 1,000 yards away. Who's on whose side? Now, what happens during those situations are the police officers don't know each other. So when you have a major event, and I've run them, and you're in a major urban area, you're in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Washington, most of the tactical people know each other from all the different agencies, typically train together, know each other face to face. And so it's obvious who the good guys are. You know the good guys. But to everybody else, you need the jackets or some other indicator that shows what agency you're with if you really are a good guy. Now, what happens, fast forward to this case, is now the day of the event. We don't know how many Secret Service were assigned. We don't know how many state and local police officers agreed to be assigned, agreed to participate and volunteer. We just don't know. So that would be the first dilemma for the on-scene commander. You're in charge of all of the response, all of the control of this event. Who are you in charge of? Do you know? Do you know what agencies they're from? Do you know what they do? So in this situation, we hear that the shooter, the guy with the gun, Crooks, is walking around outside the main perimeter because he would have had to go through magnetometers and be identified, show his credentials, leave the gun over his shoulder, show who he is. But he doesn't go into that inner venue where the chairs are, where the viewers are. He's wandering around in the nearby field for a long time. People are spotting him for 30 minutes. Now, what typically happens is a lot of people would look at that and assume must be a good guy, wearing camouflage pants, carrying what looks like a police type rifle, AR type rifle, assault rifle. So who would carry that kind of a weapon? Typically, the police. And who would brazenly walk around in that field from wherever he parked his car? He walks through the field carrying a rifle. He goes to that building then he climbs up on the roof. People in the field are yelling at the police. There's a guy with a gun. He's climbing up on that building. And so now the police know. Some of the police take a picture of him. They send that to the command post, to the commanders. And the first thing the commander is going to want to know, having been one in that situation, is who's he belong to? What agency? Is he a cop? Is he a sheriff? Is he a deputy? Is he Secret Service, FBI, DHS? Who does he belong to? Well, now that's assuming that the guy he belongs to, if he's a good guy, has one of his commanders in the command post that can see the picture of this guy and say, oh, yeah, that's Deputy so-and-so. He's one of us. Now, you wonder why there's so much confusion. As a commander, what happens is that during the preparation, you might have one of the county sheriffs wanting to be part of the big guys, wanting to say, oh, I'm in the middle of this. For when he runs for re-election as sheriff, he can tell his constituents, I was a key guy protecting the president, all of that. So these guys might want to send their own guy in there that hasn't been already pre-identified in the earlier meetings, that this particular human being, this deputy, belongs to this sheriff's department or township or city or village, and his boss has inserted him into the response, and the bosses don't know it. The on-scene commander doesn't know it. So that's what happens. This guy gets identified crawling on the roof. The Secret Service counter sniper team is on another building looking first through binoculars at this guy. Then later they think they're trying to radio into their command post. Should we shoot him or not? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? They don't get an answer. And I'm not surprised, because who would answer that question? So now you're the on-scene commander and you're getting a radio call from the two Secret Service guys on the nearby roof. We have a clear shot at this guy. We can kill him instantly. Should we do it? You're the boss. Should you tell him to shoot?
Right.
Only to find out later you just shot some cop, some deputy that you didn't know was going to be there, that decided to be Rambo, climb up on the roof and be part of the team. You just don't know. So the response to shoot or don't shoot isn't given until the guy shoots, till Crooks fires his shot, several shots. Then they realize, uh-oh, he's not one of us. He's a bad guy. They kill him.
Right.
Out he goes. He's dead. So the other confusion that happens, there's a separate thing. The bullets that go by President Trump's head, they're not hearing the actual bullet from the gun, sound that's made bam when the trigger is pulled. What they're hearing is these bullets are supersonic. They travel, the sound speed is 750 feet per second. These bullets and those rifles travel at about 2,000 ballpark, different caliber, but ballpark 2,000 feet per second. What happens is when they're nearby, when you're within 10 or 15 feet of that bullet, it makes a small crack like a sonic boom. going by. Now, when we trained in the FBI on rifle shooting, we would split in half,
Mhm.
and half of the shooters around the line with the guns, and the
Mhm.
other half would be in kind of a bunker where the targets would get raised. The targets are going to be about 100 yards from the shooting line.
Mhm.
And so what happens is those targets are on pulleys. So we would pull the chain, bring the target down, put a
Mhm.
new target on there, and then send it back up for the
Mhm.
to shoot at. Now
Mhm.
where we're at, we're in a like a bunker, protected, so they can't shoot us
Mhm.
because we're not exposed. We're in a little like trough or whatever
Mhm.
where the targets are. As the bullets go through the target, where we're at 10 or 15, 20 feet from the actual bullet, we
Mhm.
hear that choo, choo, choo. You hear the crack, you hear a whip sound and a crack sound, which
Okay.
is a little sonic boom. We don't hear the rifles being shot 100 yards away. We don't hear the bam.
Mhm.
We have the bam. The sound of that shot has not reached you yet, but the bullet is going by and it makes a sonic boom that you do hear.
Mhm. Right.
On the microphone from the podium that Trump was using during those shots being fired, you hear that crack sound.
Mhm.
Crack, crack, crack. And people are saying it sounded like pistol shots because it's not the actual bullet sound going off from the rifle, it's
Mhm.
the sound barrier being broken by the bullet, creating a little sonic boom.
Mhm.
The bullets are about that long, so it's not like an airplane making a sonic boom. This is a small projectile.
Right.
So that adds to the confusion because the people at the scene
Mhm.
are hearing crack, 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 crack.
Right.
People by near the rifle or outside immediate scene are hearing bam, 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 bam. So they're hearing what sounds like 15 or 20 shots. It
Mhm.
might be the same 5 or 10 with first, you would have the crack of the sonic boom. Secondly, this is not an urban area. So when we did this kind of training in a city, you then have the echo of the sound of the rifle shot echoing from one building to the other, the sonic boom. So you have all of this
Right.
confusing sounds that you don't really know. And in in an urban environment, it's coming off a building. So did the shot come over there? I don't know. Did it come over there? We don't know. It's
Mhm.
echoing off of it. Where's the original shooter at? Now, in this case, it was easier to determine because there were so few building tops
Right.
to cover.
Mhm.
And they had this guy in view. And again, for 30 minutes when he's wandering around in the field, many people are assuming, and even, you have these citizens calling in saying, there's a suspicious guy walking around with a rifle. And
Mhm.
that call would go in, and a lot of other police officers might think, oh, he's got to be one of us. Who else
Mhm.
would be so bold as to walk around this venue, just
Mhm.
freely walk around like they own the place carrying a rifle?
Mhm.
So a lot of people are immediately wondering, is he a good guy or is he not? They don't know. And that's when they call into the command post. The command post, they notify the on scene commander, we've got a guy walking around with a rifle. Then
Mhm.
we've got this guy crawled up on the roof that has a clear view of the podium.
Mhm.
So, or they assume it's probably a clear view. So now the on scene commander, his job at that moment is to figure out good guy, bad guy.
Right.
Now, if he's a bad guy or suspicious guy, you just shoot and kill him.
Mhm.
Now, you can make an argument that at that point, with the confusion, they should have gotten Trump off the stage then, before there's any shots. Get him aside,
Mhm.
straighten it out, figure out who this guy is, good, bad, or otherwise, and then he can resume his speech.
Mhm.
But they don't do that. So the next question is for the authorities is who made the decision, shoot or don't shoot?
Mhm.
And at the time, based on what they knew, I probably would have made the same decision. I'm not going to order those guys, not knowing it's a bad guy,
Mhm.
kill him, shoot him in the head, and then find out later you just shot and killed a deputy sheriff.
Mhm.
So that's where the big dilemma comes in. Good guy, bad guy. They're not wearing raid jackets. They're not wearing FBI or DEA or Secret Service on their jackets. So you just don't know.
Mhm.
Now, the whole venue's understaffed, no question. All of these other issues with it, the rooftop should have been absolutely known to be secure or not secure. Um, they could have been using drones right up to, let's say, right up to the time of the speech. Police have drones, the FBI has drones, Secret Service. So you have all these different ways to address the situation that just weren't. But I think part of it, sometimes you have a lack of manpower.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have too many. And that's where this comes in. At these kind of events, Butler, Pennsylvania is not Philadelphia. It's not Pittsburgh. It's not, some other major urban area. So now, who are the police officers that are going to help the Secret Service? Do any of them know each other? Have they ever met each other before?
Mhm.
When they first have the command post meetings, who knows? And do all of the police departments and their sheriffs and captains and lieutenants and senior officials, do they know who's the on-scene commander? Now,
Mhm.
typically, it should be somebody from Secret Service. They're
Mhm.
in charge of the venue. The security of the venue is Secret Service responsibility.
Mhm.
And now we're hearing talk where, well, maybe the local police were going to be in charge of the rooftops or this or that. That sounds absurd to me. You
Mhm.
would have an overall on-scene commander that would be in charge of, a mile at least area all the way around, not just this venue, this part or that part.
Sure.
So, that's part of the dilemma is who's in charge and who else are good guys, who else are part of this thing that everybody else should know is a good guy.
Sure.
And again, I've seen situations like this, and not to say bad things about police officers, but it would not surprise me if we had learned later that some sheriff in some little county nearby in Western Pennsylvania decides, you know, I could use this later when I run for reelection next year or in 2 years. And so I want to be able to say, I was in the middle of the security for the president of the United. I'm playing with the big boys. And
Right.
that's not uncommon. All of a sudden, you have this rogue police officer in the field running around. Nobody knows who he is. And nobody was assigned immediately. Check him out. Find out who he is. Good guy, bad guy. So
Well,
those are some
so
things we just don't know.
Right. So, well, thank you so much, Tom, to explain everything happened behind the scene. This is very professional preparation, processing. So, according to your description, that in this situation, for 30 minutes, nobody recognized this guy, right? The headquarter, the on-scene commander, nobody knows this guy. So, no order given to the police to stop him or to shoot him or to
Well, the
just
order
go
should
and
the
check with him.
initial order when he's in the field, check him out.
Right.
Identify who he is,
Mhm.
verify his identification, his credentials,
Right.
if he belongs to a police department, and whatever department he's with, then you could take up chastising the boss of that department or
Right.
this guy of what are you doing having your person run around creating this appearance of a dangerous threat that
Right.
may not be a dangerous threat, but just looks like one. So yes, that would be the next step. Who is this guy? Now, what I envisioned happened was that they're radioing in, they're sending pictures of him into the command post. The on-scene commander is there. He does not personally know the 200 or 300 police officers from all over Western Pennsylvania that show up that day. He doesn't know them.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, their own chief of police might not know them. The
Mm-hmm.
sheriff might not know every deputy. So
Mm-hmm.
the head of the Pennsylvania State Police doesn't know every deputy in every county in Western Pennsylvania. So they all don't know each other in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
In the second place, being a not usual venue, they don't all work together. Like when this is over, see you next week when we're in Philadelphia, see you next week when we're in Pittsburgh. You don't have that. You've got, everybody put together as an all star team for one event. And there isn't time for them to all know each other and figure it out and all of that. You expect the on scene commander to have access to the other commanders from each department, the senior ranking officials that would be with the commander in the command post.
Mhm.
So that's typically the designation is you have an on-scene commander. One person is the boss to make the decisions. And then you have other assistants from all the other agencies participating to be close at hand to be able to advise and straighten out issues like this. Who this person is, who does he belong to? Does he belong to anybody, or is he strictly a
Mhm.
potential assassin?
Mhm.
The way he walks around, um, if you're a police officer nearby and you see that, you think, no, he must be a cop, must
Mhm.
be a good guy. Who else would walk around like they own the place?
Mhm.
So that's where contributes to the confusion. But the snipers from the Secret Service that are on the roof
Mhm.
radioing in, first they're looking through binoculars standing up. Then they get down. One's on one knee looking through his scope. The
Mhm.
other one gets down lower,
Mhm.
and they're radioing in that they have a clear shot
Right.
at the individual. Should they take it? And whoever, we don't know at this point, whoever is in charge, whoever is the on scene commander in the command post,
Mhm.
doesn't say take the shot. They're still trying to identify the person. There's no real response until the suspicious guy fires shots. Then they know. Then they kill him. But
Right.
that's when they figure out he's a bad guy. When he opens fire, he's a bad guy.
Right.
Up
Right.
until that point, he's an unknown person.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow, this is such a well, if this is what really happened, we don't know. We just assume this is what happened. So this is a huge mistake, or this mistake, which people don't know each other, the police officer don't know each other's, that gives a big hole that the bad guy can just jump in and do the bad things. And one thing I just wonder, the killer did not wear any like FBI or police. He did not even wear anything of that. So is that suspicious? Is that something that you need to
Yeah, it can be. They're claiming that he had camouflage pants and some kind of a t-shirt that, maybe had a U.S. flag on the shoulder, but it's also extremely hot that day. So you could have an officer from
Mhm.
a lesser department, a smaller county or whatever, and they don't have uniforms. They don't have discipline. They don't have the sense to be identified as a police officer. And so it's enough to make a suspicion of is it or isn't the person a good person. And that's why I say this goes back many, many years. The issue, we call it in training deconfliction.
Mhm.
Deconflict good guys from bad guys. You're
Mhm.
doing a drug raid, you're doing a mass arrest, you're doing some event. And in order to separate good guys from bad guys, then you have the FBI with their FBI jackets and DEA and
Yeah.
police and other people wearing, we refer to those, the blue windbreakers, and we all have one, as
Mhm.
raid jackets. So you can go to work and be in a suit and tie and doing your regular duties and then get called to a scene like that. You have your windbreaker in the car with you at all times, trunk of the car, and you immediately take your suit jacket off and put that on.
Right, right.
Put it on over the jacket, either way. But you put that on so that when you're near the building, when you're across the street, other commanders, other people can look at that and say, FBI, DEA, police, some
Mhm.
other ATF, some other identifier. And that's why that was started, was to keep good guys from killing each other,
Mhm. Right, right.
being able to tell who's a good guy, who's a bad guy.
Mhm.
Now, would it be easy? You can buy those FBI raid jackets. I've seen them on the streets of Washington. You can buy a t-shirt and a sweatshirt and an FBI hat and a jacket.
Mhm.
You would be impersonating an FBI agent.
Mhm.
Would they prosecute that? No, they don't prosecute murderers. Why would they prosecute that?
Mhm.
So, that's among the issues. But
Mhm.
the biggest issue for a commander and for all of the officers assigned to situation is you've got to try to identify who's a good guy, who isn't.
Right.
not as easy as it sounds. It's
Mm-mm.
very, very difficult. And if you're the commander, if I was the commander in that command post, and where you immediately get the suspicious call, and you're trying to check with every other sheriff, every other chief, every other boss, every other lieutenant to try to identify the person, that's going to take forever. And if he's not with the department, you won't get an answer, which is what happens here.
Mm-mm.
So now, would you, I put myself in that situation. You talk about losing sleep after watching this event. And I'm thinking, and I've been in the situation of making the call whether to execute the swarm arrest or whatever, the green light for the snipers to go ahead and fire. And you look at that and you look back and you say, you know, I was lucky in my career. I didn't give an order to shoot and
Mm-mm.
have them kill an innocent person. But in this situation, it could happen easily. You've got too many different players thrown into a mix
Mm-mm.
all of a sudden for a one time event.
Mm-mm.
Rally's over, they're never going to see each other again. So
Mm-mm.
so that's where the confusion comes in, that it's hard to tell who's a good guy, who's a bad guy. And from my standpoint, putting myself in the position of the commander in that command post,
Mm-mm.
if I had said, well, we can't identify this person, go ahead and neutralize them. Go ahead, you have a green light. Go ahead and shoot him.
Mm-mm.
And you find out later it's a deputy sheriff from some obscure police department in Western Pennsylvania. He's got 3 or 4 kids at home, you know, veteran of the military, all of these things that was just stupidly put in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you just ordered that person dead.
Mm-mm. I understand. I understand. Yes. So, things like this happened. From your professional point of view, what can we do to prevent this similar things happened next time?
Well, everything that can be done to really pre-identify every officer that's going to be involved at every level, inside the perimeter, outside the perimeter, manning the magnetometers, all of the people that are going to be responders to this situation, to try to identify them and to immediately set up a situation that if anybody is suspicious, they're immediately checked out, period. So if
Right.
you have a citizen in the field saying to the police, look, this guy's walking around with a gun, or this guy, he's suspicious walking around outside the magnetometers, or later he's climbing up on the roof, that there was a more systematic and immediate method to identify the person, good, bad, or otherwise.
Right. Right. Otherwise, things like this will happen again. It seems it's pretty easy to
Yeah,
just
it's
do.
very, very easy, very likely.
So my next question is this guy know how the police arrange the whole things? Meaning, if he know that it's easy for him to get into it and to do the shooting, he must to know what how the police and situation like this arranged from inside, and then he will know that okay, I will kill. I like to kill someone. I have the chance because the police don't know each other, so I can just protect. I'm one of them. He must to know that to do things like that, right?
Could be that in his, but again, 20 years old, how much experience does he have?
That's
Wasn't
the
in the military, wasn't a police officer.
right.
He's who knows if he's ever been to any rally.
Right.
But in this situation, they have such minimal security at the venue that he starts walking around and thinks he can do whatever he wants. And for the most part, he can. Now,
Uh-huh.
I've been in situations, not quite like this, but similar, where a bad guy
Mhm.
with a gun makes himself look like a police officer and then starts walking around in and around police officers, in and around the venue. And people just assume, even cops assume, he must be with us.
Right.
He must be. There's all these different departments. He must be with this other department, this
Uh-huh.
other county, this other city, or
Mhm.
he's federal,
Mhm.
Secret Service, somebody else.
Mhm.
So, so we don't know what this kid knew and why
Uh-huh.
think it. Now, you'll hear the conspiracies now that there could have been a second shooter, maybe on the water tower 400 yards away, and all of that. Could be. Um, and it could be then he's just a patsy. But who did he talk to? How did anybody know that he was even going to show up to even take a shot at Trump?
Mhm.
If it's a true patsy, he wouldn't have actually been there to shoot, but he was, and he did. So, that's a different story in this case. But
Mhm.
he did actually take the shot.
Yeah, there's lots of blame towards the lady used to work in PepsiCo. She is USSS chairwoman, right? Secretary of USSS, and she refused to resign. What do you think about her reaction, or what do you think about what kind of responsibility she should take?
Oh, the current head of Secret
Yeah,
Service,
yeah, USSS, right?
USSS, U.S. Secret Service.
Right.
Um, yeah, and looking at her background, she has no real tactical, she's another one of these, Biden administration appointees who are
Right.
not appointed on merit or experience. She
Mm-hmm.
just she plugs the right category, DEI, whatever it might be, and that's how she gets the job. And then, it won't take responsibility. So you have, in so many situations, so many members of the Biden administration that have failed,
Right.
whether it was Buttigieg running transportation and the disasters that we've had there, or whether it's the military, the evacuation of Afghanistan that was horrific, or other people in key situations, Mayorkas running Homeland Security. These guys are incompetent fools,
Mm-hmm.
and yet, and they demonstrate how foolish and stupid they are
Mm-hmm.
regularly. And
Mm-hmm.
then what happens? Nothing. Now, I've you know, joked many, many times over the years that the only person in Washington that gets held accountable is the coach of the Washington National Football League team. That's the only one. Team does bad over a couple of years, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
All the rest of these guys, who fires anybody?
Mm-hmm.
Typically nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And she's stubborn now. Yeah, buck stocks with me. Well, when that means you get fired,
Mm-hmm.
you resign. And she says, I'm not going anywhere. Well, then the buck doesn't stop with her. It stops with somebody else. It's somebody else's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So, so we'll see what, if anything, happens. They'll have hearings. They'll have all these discussions. They'll have all of that.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is the event was mismanaged.
Right.
Now, the on-scene commander, again, was in a very difficult situation. He or she should not have been in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
They should have had ready mechanism to identify who should be
Right.
assigned and who shouldn't be, who belongs, who doesn't belong, which departments, all of that
Mm-hmm.
should have been handled at a lower level. So when you hear comments that, well, the Secret Service wasn't in charge of that rooftop, the police were. No,
Right.
no, 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 no. The Secret Service are in charge of everything within 5,000 yards of
Mm-hmm.
that event.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So this is obvious a failure of the Secret Service.
yes, and I should add how jurisdiction works for people
Mm-hmm.
to understand.
Mm-hmm.
By federal law, the head of the United States, the vice president, key people in the administration are the responsibility of the Secret Service for their protection. Then, should that protection break down and they get attacked, the responsibility then goes to the FBI by law.
Oh.
So, in this situation, the Secret Service, the second those shots are fired, they're no longer in charge of the investigation. The FBI is in charge, period.
Mm-hmm.
So, now they're talking about the Office of Inspector General of Homeland Security, all of that. Well, part of that is that people don't trust the FBI anymore. 20 years ago when I was in the FBI, when they announced the FBI is in charge, that was it. People knew it was going to be a thorough, honest, capable, competent investigation. Now they don't have confidence that it won't be political, that it won't be, you know, dual justice or whatever like we've seen. I'll give you an example. during the time I was in the FBI, if you had a police officer shot somebody in a city, and now a riot, there was a race riot. What used to stop the riot is the FBI has opened a civil rights investigation and agents are on the way to investigate. Now, I was in Ferguson. That's exactly what happened. The big riot is starting. Uh-oh, FBI's coming. Stop the riot. They'll take care of this. It'll be honest. It'll be thorough. It'll be competent. And you don't have that today. The FBI has done so much in the last 7 or 8, 10 years to lose the trust of the people that now you have people saying, I don't want the FBI investigating this. I don't trust them. It'll be political. They'll do what Merrick Garland wants or what Biden wants or Christopher Wray or some of these other morons, as far as I'm concerned, that are going to twist the investigation and make it political. And I think that that's one of the most tragic things. When we have a new administration, to me, key institutions have to be, reestablished as honest and good. And that includes the Department of Justice, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security. You name the government department, they need to regain credibility, which they don't have right now.
Excuse me, I just can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Here you.
Sorry. Yeah. So I just say that this is
I
very
was talking so long, I thought maybe you fell asleep or something.
no, no, no. Because I'm coughing, so I just mute myself for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that the FBI actually lost their reputation and people just don't trust them. So this add more difficulty for the investigation. But still, so far, I just feel that this is ridiculous how it happened. Because when you recognize a person that's suspicious, you need to have a procedure and you need to finish that within maybe 5 minutes. This is just regular work. How it takes so long for 30 minutes, nobody there recognized this guy. And I heard one people said that one police was sent to talk to this guy, the killer, and then they after about a few minutes and then he just left. The policeman just left.
Yeah, the story I heard about that was that the officer stuck his head up over the thing and could see the bad guy. The bad guy turned his gun, so he left. Now,
Okay,
is that
now
true?
the bad guy.
Yeah, is that true? We don't know. But it's something to find out if it's true or it's not true.
Right.
I think that, when you have key people, when you talk about people need to be in jobs based on their merit,
Mhm.
we don't know who the on-scene commander was, or, was it a DEI pick? Was
Mhm.
there any basis of merit?
Mhm.
You have the Secret Service boss claiming before the event, her goal is to make sure that 30% of Secret Service agents are women. Now, that's all well and good, but you see in this case, when they're throwing their bodies around Trump to protect him from a possible follow-up shooter, um,
The
you know,
woman, right?
male agents are what? 5'5", 5'6". Trump is 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have, huge burly agents,
Mm-hmm.
male or female, to cover him with their bodies,
Mm-hmm.
so when they put their when they're shorter and put their bodies around Trump, his whole head is still exposed.
Yeah, right. He's the
When they
whole
get him up, his head is showing.
yeah, right.
So I think that that's again trying to pick who are the best Secret Service agents, and then out of all of the agents hired by the Secret Service, to put the best ones on the protection details for the president, for the vice president, for key officials. The Secret Service, by the way, is also responsible for the security of a head of state from another country when they visit the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So when Netanyahu comes to address Congress, the Secret Service is responsible for protecting him.
Right.
If he sends one of his deputies, one of the ministers from Israel or somebody else, then that comes up under under the State Department's protection. And
Mhm.
so that's a different thing than the head of the agency. So Secret Service has the head of our agency, key people in the U.S. government, and then heads of state from foreign governments when they come.
Mhm. Also, which department secret agent belongs to? Which department, Department of Justice
Now, the
or
Secret Service, after 9/11, when the Department of Homeland Security was created,
uh-huh.
Secret Service was put under DHS, Homeland Security.
Oh,
So the
okay.
director of the Secret Service,
The UCAS.
her boss is Mayorkas.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
They're all nightmares. Go down any cabinet position in Biden's government and find
Right,
somebody who's really competent, who you
right.
look at with confidence and say, I'm glad that person was picked and confirmed to be Secretary of whatever, Homeland Security, Secretary of Defense, you name it. And so that's what you have now is
Right.
Homeland Security. The Secret Service is part of Homeland Security. It used to be Department of Justice, no longer is.
So all we talk about right now here is maybe the thing happened because of their incompetent, because they did not do their job good. Well, I think this is the good situation. The bad situation is something else work behind the scene to make all this happen. Well, we don't know.
Well, okay, that's why you need an honest investigation, you know.
Right.
But the question there is if Crooks was a patsy and
Mm-hmm.
somebody else was behind it, some other shooter was supposed to be the one that actually shot, well, then where were they? You have theories that 400 yards beyond on the water tower, there might have been a second shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did that person shoot? What's the evidence that that person, and again, these shots with a scoped rifle, it's like, you've heard people that play golf say it's like a 2-inch putt.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a good shot. Now, I was a firearm instructor, among other things, and I could train you in about 10 minutes to take that shot and make it. Simple, very close, very easy, and it could have been done. But, you know, was somebody else involved? Were there other people? The next question is, if that's true, how did this kid get recruited? And who would recruit him? Who would trust him?
Right.
So the other side is that if typically he's a patsy, like the claim that Oswald was a patsy. So, okay, the kid fires the shots at the president and the Secret Service guys take him out, kill him immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's another shooter, where's that shooter? Why aren't those shots being made at Trump? So, in one of the pictures showing President Trump's head, behind his head, you see the streak in the
Right.
sky. The reason for that is the bullet, as I mentioned, is traveling more than 2,000 feet per second. That's why it makes the sonic boom it makes. And that's the contrail of the bullet because it's so hot and humid that it's the moisture in the air that
Mm-hmm.
it's streaking through. That's why it's making that streaking video of the bullet in the air.
Mm-hmm. So there's so many.
Anybody else shoot? Do we know of anybody else that fired a shot beside Crooks on the rooftop?
Mhm.
Don't know. The agents that were watching him
Mhm.
and on that roof and hearing the shots, they would be and they're theoretically wearing body cams. They should be in a position to analyze the sound on their cameras
Mhm.
that they're wearing and determine where else shots could have been fired from.
Mhm.
So that's got to be all part of the investigation. And we
Well,
hope it's an honest investigation. Now they're announcing that the inspector generals, will be in charge of the investigation. Inspector general for the Department of Homeland Security. Well, that gives me no confidence. What's their investigative background?
that's
People
right.
that people that applied to be FBI or DEA and didn't make it, so they get hired by the inspector general now, and they're going to conduct this. I don't know. I don't have confidence in any part of this at this point. I want to see the results. and I want to see how they conducted the investigation.
Mhm. It maybe take a long time to do the whole through investigation, right? A situation like this.
It doesn't have to. It can
Oh,
be done. It can be done within a few weeks because the FBI theoretically they could assign 1,000 agents to this
oh, that's
and cover all of these leads simultaneously,
true.
very thoroughly, go into all of that. Now, whether they'll do that, I don't know. Do I trust Christopher Wray to do that? No.
Right.
Do I trust Biden and Mayorkas to make sure that the inspector general has all the resources that he needs or she needs to do this investigation? No, don't trust them either.
Right. So President Trump is still in danger right now. Can we say?
Absolutely. Yeah, he's going to be in danger.
Mhm.
He's going to be in danger the rest of his life. That's a fact.
That's sad.
And he knows it. And he's still going forward and he knows it.
Right. I know. You know, a lot of my friend from China email not email me, just text me and they just said that Trump is the hero in China right now. So many people are saying that. We respect American again because you guys have Trump. He is the one and he made the history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are many leaders around the world that say that. You look at, the prime minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban. He's been saying that for years now, that
Right.
the only way we're going to have faith in the United States again is if they bring back Trump.
Right.
He's been saying that.
Right.
Now, Viktor Orban is hated by the Biden administration. They
Uh-huh.
hate his guts. The EU hates him because he won't accept all these refugees. He just refused.
Right.
I'm not taking them.
Mhm.
So, plus, our CIA tried to interfere in the election of Orban 2 years ago when he ran for prime minister again. So another attempt that we made to interfere with somebody else's election. And he got elected anyway because 86% of the Hungarian people support him.
Right. 86.
So, yeah,
That's a big, huge number.
it is huge.
Yeah. And then what do you think about Vance, the vice president right now? What do you think this pick? Vance is a good one. What do you think? Yeah,
I think
this.
my personal opinion is an outstanding selection because you're looking at someone, he act he embodies the American dream. Here's a
Mm,
kid that grows up in Appalachia, one of the poorest areas in Ohio and Kentucky and Western Pennsylvania. And his mother's an addict. His
mm,
father ends up in jail. He's raised by his grandmother and, um, pulls himself up by the bootstraps. I'm sorry.
mm,
Um, and then joins the Marines, serves in Iraq, comes
mm,
back, puts
mm,
himself through Yale Law School, graduating first in his class, comes back from that, and immediately tries to give back to his community. So you're
mm,
talking about, they're saying, well, he's only 39 years old.
mm.
Well, he's done more in 39 years than most people do in 139 years.
I agree.
So I think that, all these liberals can call him, he'll be an exact clone of Trump. Well, hopefully, yes. You
Mm,
know, that's why Trump did a great job picking him. He didn't pick a DEI. He didn't pick somebody like Biden picking Harris. Well, black woman, this, that. That's what I want.
mm,
Totally incompetent. Who cares? He picked somebody who's totally competent, totally doesn't check all those boxes,
mm,
brought himself up from nothing to be
mhm,
where he's at today. And I think the more that comes out, and we're going to hear, JD Vance talk tonight at the Republican convention. I think
mhm.
the more that people hear his story, the more compelling they'll know that what he overcame to get where he's at.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Tom, we have lots of friends just say hi to you. And then Yui said, Tom gives a professional insight, the issue of uniform, making the for those present. I have no heard of Tom for sharing. The uniform issue is actually a very big issue, and actually recognize every one of the officers is not easy as we thought. This is a long processing, maybe. And then she said, I also don't have confidence on the current House and the Senate. The Senate has started a hearing about the whole situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, what do you think about this part?
I have no confidence in them either. It'll be political. They'll be trying to make political points, and I have no regard for the committees and what they're going to accomplish here. The
Mhm,
shame of it is that we cannot trust the FBI 100% like we used to, like
mhm,
we did when I was in. And I think that that's the tragedy. Because as I mentioned in the past, when there was a race riot and the
mhm.
FBI said, we've opened a civil rights investigation and we're on our way. We're on our way to Ferguson. The riot ended.
Right.
Both sides had confidence this is going to be figured out. It's going to be an honest investigation and we can trust it. We don't have that now. We've had the FBI going after parents at school board meetings and the Catholic Church if they're doing mass in Latin and all of these kind of things to discredit themselves.
Mhm,
And Christopher Wray doing nothing to
mhm.
restore the confidence of the people
Right.
that the FBI is honest, trustworthy, and competent.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. And then Kathy said, "Thank you so much, Tom, to explain some of the questions, but still we have a lot of questions remain. And
Yeah,
this is a practice, or this is someone doing the inside job. We don't know. Still is under investigation." And she said that we spend so much money to give to the federal, and the federal can do nothing. They're like garbage. I am so angry about that because
me
they
too.
did not
Me
do
too.
their job good.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so we will still keep our eye on the situation, the investigation where it lead us to, and then it is incompetent or it is something else. And also we pray for President Trump for his safety and his team.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Tom,
Now,
for
back to Trump.
Mhm,
Just imagine, just
mhm,
imagine, you know that half of the country, all these liberals, all these big mouths on mass media, all of these people, they don't
mhm.
just want you off the campaign trail. They just don't want you to lose. They want and in jail or anything. They want you dead,
I
dead. And so now you're going to go out there, you're going to campaign, you're going to hold rallies, you're going to do all of the things that you do typically as a politician, as a campaigner, knowing if they get the slightest opportunity, they're going to kill you.
right,
And you know that. That to me is a hero.
right.
That you know they want you dead and you're still doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
you look
people.
at Biden and, you know, you spent most of these campaigns in the basement or hiding in the White House or, all of that and calling Trump names, calling him a dictator, all the things. And then they wonder why lunatics out there might want to try to kill him. And in a way, hope that someone does.
I know. We saw so many ugly people during this time. They're
Yeah.
professors, they're millionaires. They're just saying that, okay, we're so sorry they missed a little bit.
Yeah.
Just cannot believe it.
Yeah, and then
But
you hear some of the idiots claiming, "Well, Trump staged this. He wasn't really wounded."
ah,
Oh yeah. He while he was bent over, he cut off a piece of his own ear to
some
show
people
it.
do that.
Come on, come on. What kind of idiots are still on these TV stations? Are still on? I can understand YouTube where you could have, an independent person, but on network television,
Mhm,
the statements that are being made by some of these people,
mhm,
and I don't know. It's unbelievable. And
mhm,
you're the best bet now is pray that
mhm.
Donald Trump survives and gets elected
Right,
and immediately starts putting good people in charge of these agencies and turn it around.
right. This is our last chance.
I
So
agree. I
yeah.
agree.
So still we see what happened here in front of our eyes, and we know that we're in dangers because when Trump is in dangers, MAGA is in dangers. people like us are in danger. So we have to realize that, and then we appreciate that Trump take the lead, take his life, to try to bring the country back. It's for all the good of us. So this is our opportunity and our obligations to do what we need to do to save ourselves, save the country.
Agreed.
And for that, I really appreciate Tom for your efforts to give us the insight and yeah, the history every week. We really, really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you so very much. And
Okay.
I'm coughing here. So um,
Sorry.
it's okay. You want to drink some water?
I have some.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you so much and take good care of yourself. And we're together in this situation. And yeah, let's pray for
Okay.
Trump and for
I'm
this.
glad we are together. It's great to be together in this.
Thank you so much. And thank you for our dear audience. Yeah, they just say thank you so much for Tom.
Yeah, everybody that's watching and is going to watch, thank you very much for watching and for caring to try to understand what's really going on.
Sure. Oh, thank you, Tom. And that I will see you next week.
See you next